Hello, I'm Dr. Basil Considine. I'm here from the ACU Online Writing Center, and today we're going to be talking about how to use Google Docs as part of a group project. Now, we have a variety of different webinars that we offer here at the ACU Online Writing Center. This one is very much hands-on. You're not going to be seeing any slides. Don't look for a slide deck to download. This is all about showing specific functions and how they work, and using those to execute different tasks and to collaborate more effectively with your colleagues. And as our focus for today, we're going to be specifically looking at the CONAR 610 course at a couple interrelated assignments. The first is the Dealing with Difficult Behavior assignment, followed by the group project that you work on in parallel, and the assignment 8 that follows that ties into it. So, briefly, the assignment number 6 deals with dealing with difficult behavior. This is where you're asked to describe the importance of defining what is difficult and how to address it and why you should address it. And this is something that comes back in a very important way when you get to the assignment 7, which is your group project, where you are asked to take on the role of a member of a team that has had some trouble, some inter-team conflict that is so bad that some members of the organization have left because it's been so stressful. That sounds like something important, and we'd certainly like to avoid your group project being that kind of thing that feels just as stressful as you're supposed to be role-playing. So you're being asked to do a number of things. There are these 4 tasks here that are all supposed to take place through discussion on the group discussion board created specifically for your group. And then coming out of that, you're asked to make a Google Doc that you use to collaborate and create a shared document, a document that is a collective creation, and you will ultimately be having your instructor look at. Now, I hasten to add that we have a nice daily schedule laying out the deadlines for certain tasks. You can certainly work ahead, but you want to make sure that you meet each of these milestones, and before 11:59 Central Time on each of those days, you're getting the things that you need done. Now, when it comes to Saturday, that's when you start winnowing down the list and really whittling it down to, okay, here's what we're going to put into the Google Doc. So you can start this process earlier, and I suggest doing it earlier, especially because you're supposed to be progressively narrowing it down. But if you have something that you know, yeah, this is absolutely going to be on the list, you can start working on finalizing the related text early. Now, when we get to Sunday, the team is supposed to put together this document, or finish putting together this collaborative Google document. After it's all done, sign off on it by typing your name in. And also keep in mind that you are being graded in part by, have you done these things? Did you create the work context? Did you work on all these things and share that? Some of which is tracked on the discussion board. And also, did everyone contribute to this? And in Google Docs, it's very easy to see who's done what. So let's take a look briefly at the assignment 8, and then let's go to Google Docs. So we mentioned that these 3 assignments are very closely related. So we've dealing with difficult behavior, where you approach the issue more abstractly, and then finish with describing a actual workplace conflict that you've witnessed, hopefully not participated in, unless you were resolving it. Then there's this group project to create a team agreement. And then assignment 8, you're now coming at it from the point of, oh, how would you present a plan to enact something like a group agreement to encourage appropriate behaviors, to clarify what is not appropriate, what is not tolerated, etc., and to get people to adopt these best practices of behavior that you're going to be proposing. So there's a lot of overlap in terms of the thematic material. And if you keep an eye on what's coming up, you will save yourself a lot of work both with writing the core parts of the assignment and also things like the reflection here, because you'll be thinking about not just for this particular scenario, but how it might work later. All right, so let's take a look at Google Docs here. Now, the website URL is fairly easy to follow. It's docs.google.com. So let's go ahead and load that up. And I'm going to go ahead and create a blank document here. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to go ahead and title this document. Why? Because as soon as you invite someone to contribute to this document, like the rest of your team members, you will be sending out to the Google automated system, you'll be sending out an email invite to them. And if you haven't titled it yet, it'll say, oh, you've been invited to edit untitled document. And the thing is, people will probably have more than one Google Doc invite from one thing or another. And if you're trying to find that one specific thing called untitled document, that's not as helpful as if it is, oh, Assignment 7, Group Project, Collaboration Document. You can even put in CONR 610. All right, now that you've named it, whatever it should be named, go ahead and select Share. This is the big blue button in the upper right-hand corner. Now you have a couple options here. You've created the document, so you're the owner. Anyone that you add, and you just need a Google address to add them here, I recommend that in this case you have them as an editor. Then that way they can type things in directly, they can leave comments, they can add other team members or add another Google email address that they use if they're having issues signing in with that account. Type a brief message and hit send. Now, if you happen to have been given a Google email address that's not associated with an ACU account, that's fine. In this case, it just is one of those things to quickly double check that's the right email address. And now, anything that they might do, I'll be able to see. Now, when you start adding things, you'll find that you can actually go ahead and add anything that you copy and paste from the assignment instructions, which let's go ahead and do. All right, so we've gone ahead and typed in the instructions here, or pasted in really. And one of the first things you want to do is to see, is there anything that you can cross off? As in, you've made sure that's been taken care of. And something here, this says use 12-point Times New Roman font. Oh, well, our font here is Arial right now, so I'm going to select everything. I'm going to set that to Times New Roman, 12-point. And now I'm going to go ahead and take that, and I'm going to cross that off. All right, I changed everything. It should be 12-point font here. All right, now, as you do the different tasks for your group, you can cross them off here. You could even add different group members here. And whenever I tag them like that, they get an email notification. You can also select something and insert and add a comment. All right. Now, as you go through marking these down, the last step where this Google Doc needs to really come together is due on Sunday just before midnight. And it's the reflection paper that's due the following day. So when you are crossing off on this, it should be more than just the sign off there. You should be tracking these different steps. And once you're down to 5 priority suggestions, have those written here in the Google Doc and start elaborating on them so that you're working progressively on that draft before you get to end of day on Saturday, and that way you'll be in a good place to review it, sign off on it the following day. Now, just looking at this, we know that this is going to lead to, and I'm just going to put this in italics for now, you know that this is going to come up because the instructions say you need to narrow down to 5 priority suggestions. All right, well, let's go ahead and put that into a numbered list. Heck, we'll even go ahead and we'll double space that. And we'll even mark this as priority suggestion. So we have a placeholder here for adding these once we get down to 5. Now it's possible that you'll agree that something is on the final list before you finish with the other ones, and that's fine. You can add them here and start adding any elaborations on that. All right. So here, this needs member will provide a list. Here you can have tracking, and we'll just create a little list here, so you type done. You can even have them sign off on this. In this case, a convenient way, have them insert a comment. And that way you have a notification that's going out. Because when we add these comments here, by default, you will have the emails going to group members saying, hey, a comment was added to this document. And they'll be able to look in their email and say, oh, the comment was I finished a step. So it's a way to make sure that people know what's been done and what hasn't been done. Now you can also go ahead and look at the version history. It's file version history and see the process by which this is created. So you can see that in between when this was first created at 9:07 and when this was added 9:14, there's some considerable differences there. And so you can see any person's individual contributions to this list. So because this group project requires that everyone be participating, just make sure that you are not leaving your classmates to do your work at the last minute, because then you won't get credit and you'll have left them in a lurch, which is not great for teamwork. All right, so when you are going through these different things, most of this is going to be starting on the discussion board. But when you are coming down to combining this, you can do things like you can add links to posts, you can copy and paste text from the discussion board into this document, because right now this is a malleable working document, and you can, as you prepare to turn this in, you can go ahead and delete this after you've made sure that they're all crossed off and done. All right, so one thing to keep in mind is that it will be, although you can use the version history to see what people have added, it's really helpful if you use the suggestion mode. Let me show you. If I go up here and I select from editing mode to suggesting mode, anything I type or paste will be marked as an addition. This is another way to see who is doing what. And especially if there's something where someone adds it, and then you can add a comment to that. Could be as simple, this is great, thank you. Could be, hold on, you said this, or I thought we agreed on that. And again, when you add comments, a notification goes out to the different members of your team. You can see who's worked on this last. All right, now when you are working on this, editing and proofreading are a shared responsibility. So while you might have someone who's the principal person, the lead person working on it, you want to make sure that everyone's looking through it together and not leaving this to the last moment. So as you refine your text, by all means, mark off that you've reviewed it and perhaps agree with your group that you're going to have more than one person check each piece of text, because you'd all like to get as much credit as possible for the hard work you're doing. Okay, now once you have finished with things, you want to clean up the document. And for accepting changes, or accepting these suggestions, you can mouse over, and you see it over this checkbox. I get accept suggestion, reject suggestion for the X. So the check to accept, great. Now that's marked as regular text here. It doesn't show up as a suggestion or track change. And I can also go ahead and get rid of comments. So as I'm seeing, okay, everything's being done. All right, great. Delete that. Same thing. Now, if we go to the menu here, insert comment, I just want to point out here that this does show you the keyboard shortcut. I happen to be on a Mac, so that's Command Option M. There's a similar shortcut for Windows PC users. But as you are adding these different things and cleaning them up by accepting changes, make sure that you are not removing any essential instructions or essential details. Now, if that does happen, you can go to File, Version History, see Version History, and see the different forms that the document has taken. And you can even expand this and you see, okay, oh yes, that's how it looked right then, that's how it looked then. And so if something gets accidentally deleted, you can find out who did it and what was deleted to get that back. So that is part of what you can do with this Google Docs collaborative tool. Now, other things here. So when you are downloading it, you can of course download it as a variety of formats. But when you are looking at this, you might want to go ahead and say, okay, I would like to look at this offline. I would like to look at this when I'm not at my computer, not being distracted by the internet. I'm going to go ahead and email this copy to myself. So I will have a copy in my inbox. I can look it on my phone or anything like that. Great. And that will pop up this prompt asking you where you want to send the email, how you want to send it, either as in the line of the email as text, or if you want to attach it as a file, like a PDF or an editable Word document. Now all you need is the email address, and then whatever message, if you're sending it to someone else or just trying to help keep track of it. Other things that are helpful. Well, when you are looking at working here, you have a number of different tools at your disposal. And one of these is to go ahead and quickly review any suggestions. This is kind of like when you're going through track changes and you accept one change in Word, and then it takes you to the next one immediately. Same idea here. So it's a very powerful, very helpful tool. You can certainly run a spelling and grammar check before the end. And if you need, take a look at Tools, Activity Dashboard. And that'll show who has done what with this. Okay, when have people been working? When were people added? Has your instructor looked at it yet? Things like that. All right. So, to recap, for these assignments, keep in mind that assignments 6, 7, and 8 are all interlocking. They are related in content. They are related in some of the functions, or just working on different aspects of the problem. Now, when you are approaching assignment 7, remember you've got multiple delivery deadlines. Wednesday deadline, Thursday deadline, Friday deadline, Saturday deadline, Sunday deadline, Monday deadline. So that's 6 separate deadlines here. And it would be unwise to leave all that for the end, because when you do that, it's far more likely that you'll forget something or miss because something ran late or something demanded your attention, whatever it is. And so I would encourage you to, as you make your posts about these different things on the discussion board, that you make sure that you regularly check back in with how it's looking here, either in terms of tagging people to do work, checking to see that work is being done, or even going ahead and writing in some of that final text that you're going to turn in. When it comes time to add the instructor, same way that you added your colleagues, just go to the upper right hand corner, select share, and instead of making them an editor, you probably want to make them a commenter, because that will allow them to write things in, that will allow them to add comments that tag specific people, or they're just viewable to the team. And it also won't let your professor accidentally delete something, which is good because you want to be judged by all the work that you did, hopefully good work, and not worry too much that, whoops, I think you accidentally deleted a paragraph. Well, if they don't have the access to accidentally delete a paragraph, then they can't. So I recommend that you invite your instructor as a commenter, but your team members all as editors, because that will allow everyone to make the same sorts of edits. And so as you divide it up, you don't have one person who's doing all of that work. Okay, we are wrapping up here. So I mentioned that we have a variety of different webinars on reflection papers. If you need help with that particular aspect of the assignment, you want to go to the Writing Center's Online Writing Center website. That's blogs.acu.edu/online writing center. And then if you go to the writing webinars page, that's under resources, then you will be able to see our guide to all the webinars that tie in with specific assignments, and select your program, in this case ConR. And you can also do a word search for reflection, and you'll find that we have several webinars dealing with that, including dealing with assignments of varying lengths. I think it's time for us to wrap things up, so if you have any questions, please feel free to send us an email at onlinewritingcenter@acu.edu, or schedule an appointment to get feedback on a draft. You can actually get Writing Center feedback on a Google Doc. You just need to include a link to that Google Doc in your appointment details. And we are happy to look at things, but just keep in mind that it's also helpful if you're working a little bit ahead, because it does take some time for us to get back to you. Let's wrap things up, and have a good night.